All right. So I am with Western Union. Western Union is a global money transfer organization. We have been around for 165 years. We currently do business in 200 countries and territories, and we have employees in 57 countries. And so some of what you'll hear me talk about today, it's important just to think about how dispersed our workforce really is. Western Union is all about moving money for better. We take that very seriously. We're a very purpose-driven organization, and we do think when money moves, it moves for good causes. So with that, about 2 years ago, our leadership team sat down to say, where do we think we need to go next? In a 165-year evolution, what do we need to focus on? And what they decided is that we want to be the leader in cross-border, cross-currency money transfer and payments. And that might not seem revolutionary, but for us, it really means we have to evolve our workforce. We have seen the digital social mobile channels come up. We still see people around the world needing to collect cash, and their needs are really changing. And as a result of our customers changing, our workforce has to change. And so with that change, we put in our 2020 people strategy, and this is over a little 3 years ago, and it really includes 3 core elements, and there's points below each of these that I won't go into, but the 3 core elements of our 2020 people strategy are build leadership confidence, which means we need our people managers to be more capable and for our employees to feel like they are really being supported. We also want to connect people differently, and that means providing personalized, meaningful professional experiences for our individuals, and then evolving our workforce. Our workforce is 20,000 when we look at our employees and contingent labor, and we really want to look at the whole workforce and not just our employees. So as we came up with the 2020 people strategy, it became evident that one of the first processes that we had to look at was performance management. How many of you in the room are currently looking at your performance management process? Okay, I see a lot of hands, that's good. So this is where we were starting from. We went out and asked everyone, how's performance management working for you? And not to our surprise, horrible was the answer we got back. We had a negative 38% net promoter score. It was costing us over $14 million a year to do performance management when you looked at all the time, tools, and resources it took to administer it. And we also were facing some first-year turnover, and that's probably also related to the fact that 60% of our workforce are millennials, and they are spread all throughout the world, and that was something we also wanted to make sure that we provided a better work environment for that group. So it's with that GPS, or Guide, Perform, Succeed, was born. And we decided we would make a holistic change to performance management. And we did this in 56 countries. France came on board year 2. And it really was a different way of looking at how do we engage our workforce in performance management. So previously, like many of you, we had a very HR-driven performance management process, formal reviews. I felt like you had to write a novel, and probably a novel wasn't even good enough. We had 5-point rating scales, all the typical what, how, all those things. So what did we go to? Well, we actually went to a very business-driven process. And as we designed this process, we listened to our employees. And so we now have quarterly empowerment discussions. They are initiated by our employees, not our managers, which is a key differentiator and something we felt strongly about. We also streamlined the process and the documentation. I can remember standing on a stage like this with all hands saying, we no longer want you to write a novel. Take that hour or 2 or 3 or 4 that you used to spend writing that novel and sit down and talk with people. Have ongoing, meaningful conversations, and we truly believe that will drive culture change in this company. We also did completely get rid of our 5-point rating scale, and I can say that that was successfully implemented throughout the organization. And one distinction is that we also made that happen throughout our rewards process. And I can tell you that we successfully did that without shadow ratings behind the scenes when we were making reward allocations. So we have very short-term dynamic goal setting. We ask our employees to set goals whenever they need to, but at least annually. Like I said, quarterly conversations. We also give them an empowerment script. And one of the other key changes that we made was instead of having everyone continue to look back in time, we asked them to spend time just glancing back, but instead, what do you need to be successful as you move forward? And as your manager, what can I do to enable you to be successful? And as I said, we also aligned all of our rewards. So as we did this project, I will tell you, it was an all HR initiative, but more importantly, it was an all business initiative. The people leaders across the company were very supportive. They kicked off all of the trainings that we had, did all the messaging, and I'll show you some other ways that they participated. So that is the overarching change that we made in performance management. I'm now going to show you just a quick video that we provided to employees about 1 quarter into GPS implementation, so you can see some of the work that we did. Please roll the video. All right, so you can see there was a lot of momentum around Guide, Perform, Succeed. And one approach we did take, which we seldom do within the Western Union world, is we actually did start this project with live training sessions for as many employees as we could touch in 56 countries. And that was because we felt it was so important to the change we were driving. The other program that we put in place as an enabler, because we knew we had to really improve our people manager capabilities, is a program that we called Leadership in Action. And that program is where we took 2 business leaders and we gave them a cohort of, let's call it 6 to 10 people, not in their functional teams, instead cross-functional teams, but typically aligned regionally. And we gave them content that we asked them to meet with this group, this cohort group, about every 4 to 6 weeks. And we designed almost a meeting in the box where they literally had to show up with their discussion guide, and they talked about people manager related things, right? How do you have difficult conversations? How do you set stretch goals for people? How do you make sure that you make informed pay decisions and communicate those in an effective way? And this Leadership in Action program, we knew that by having the business leaders lead this program, maybe the quality wouldn't be as good if some of you in this room were facilitating those sessions, but that really wasn't the point. The point was we wanted people talking about people management and what does it mean to be good at it and learning from each other. So it's been a great program. You know, our statistics have been excellent, and I do think we see some of the outcomes that our people manager capabilities have increased, and we were really pleasantly surprised that our people managers continued to invest in this program throughout the year. The other piece that we did to enable the program was specific training related to rewards. We knew that one of the changes we had was all of a sudden we had no ratings to rely on, and managers were going to have to make base pay, bonus, and equity decisions. And how do you do that in a ratingless environment? And so We created manager guides that included what we called decision trees. And those decision trees were literally a series of questions that managers went through for each pay element to say, if I'm determining someone's bonus, what are the questions I should be asking myself to help determine what their bonus should be? And as you went through those decision guides, by the time you got to the end, it gave you ranges. And it was not a shadow rating. It was really a lot of different factors that went into that decision making. We also gave online training that then was followed up with leadership and action content that was scenario based. So meet Roberta's team, here are all the people, here are their situations, what type of pay decisions would you make for those people? And that's where we saw people really take a different approach to rewards, and we're pleased to say that we did see increased differentiation both on the top side and the bottom side of our ranges, especially as it came through in bonus and equity. So first year through, we were really pleased with the results. So it's been a journey, right? And I can tell you as we went through the journey, there were a lot of things that contributed to success, and some of those were learnings that we had along the way. One thing that we did, which is maybe different than other organizations, is we went out with a whole new performance management process, and we told people, we don't know how we're going to do rewards when we get to the end of this process. However, what we do know is it's really important for you all to get aligned on what you're doing, why you're doing it, and to have more meaningful ongoing conversations. As soon as we know how rewards are going to be allocated, then we will come back and train and educate you on that so that everyone's informed. I can tell you our lawyers were definitely concerned with that approach. However, what we found is that by taking that approach, it took the focus off the rewards and the money and put the focus where it needed to be on people engaging in meaningful dialogue. So that was a key learning for us, and quite honestly something we happenstance into. The other piece I would say is that involving leaders has been critical for this program. We never kicked off a training session without it being led by a business leader. All of the leadership and actions were led by the business leaders. It also was something that we did across all of HR, and we asked people to really put away their functional, the functional perspective and say, look, this is something we're doing for the business. It doesn't matter if you're in learning or you're an HR business partner or you're a compensation person. This is how we manage what people do every day, and we all have to work together to do that. We had a great cross-functional team that included, our communications colleagues, our marketing and branding colleagues, and we did most of this work internally without any additional resources assigned to this project. Now you might say, wow, how did you do that? It meant that we had to relentlessly prioritize, and it meant that there were other successful L&D programs that I knew the metrics were great on and people really enjoyed, that last year we had to say, we're not going to run that program this year. And that's because we are making a cultural shift, and our resources need to be allocated to that. So lots of good lessons learned. I'm happy to talk about more of those in the Q&A session. When it's all said and done, it's over a year later. We're really pleased that we ripped off the Band-Aid. We've got good participation in goals. We have an online hub that people continue to visit, which has all the information they need. The employees, when we said employees are now going to initiate performance discussions instead of managers, I can remember sitting back thinking, I sure hope they do it. And they've done it. We're at 95 plus participation on a quarterly basis, which has been great. And we've actually seen our behaviors get better, both on the people manager and the employee side. But I can put all this data up here, and I'll conclude with one just anecdotal story. And it's about 4 months ago. And every morning I go to the cafe and I get my cup of coffee, and I went one morning and the people behind me were talking about how do they get ready for their quarterly empowerment discussion and what am I going to talk about. And so I didn't even know who it was. They were just talking behind me, got my coffee, went back to my desk. The next day I went to the cafeteria and the people behind me were talking about the fact that one of them had to have a really difficult conversation with their manager, and they were asking their colleague how they should approach it. And I thought, okay, walked back to my desk. The next day, I went to the same cafeteria, same line, and the people behind me again were talking about their quarterly empowerment discussion. And this time it was, oh my gosh, we've had all these org changes, I'm not sure what the priorities are, and I'm not clear what my goals are as a result. How should I bring that up in my empowerment discussion? And it was at that moment, walking back to my desk, that I thought, oh my goodness, we did it. we actually drove change in this organization, because I can guarantee you that 2 years ago, people were not standing in the coffee line talking about performance management. And if they were, it certainly was not positive and productive. So I think sometimes, while metrics are important and we love to measure our success and failures, I can tell you that's how you can really tell that we've driven cultural change. It's that people are engaging in the process, they're having different, more meaningful discussions, and it's been a great journey. Thanks so much.